When Tessa Bryant helped a frail old man out of the rain that stormy night, she thought she was just doing what any decent person would do. She had no idea that 20 minutes of kindness would thrust her and her mute 7-year-old brother into the crosshairs of a brewing Mafia war. The old man's mysterious final words, "My family will remember you," weren't a blessing. They were a death sentence. Because when the most feared crime boss in Brooklyn decides you're worth protecting, your quiet life of struggle becomes a dangerous game of survival, passion, and deadly loyalty. What Tessa couldn't have known was that Nico Moretti's protection came with a price she never saw coming, and a love that would either save them all or destroy everything she'd fought to build. Subscribe and comment below if you've ever had one act of kindness completely change your life, because this story is about to get absolutely insane. The rain fell hard against the diner windows. Tessa Bryant wiped down her last table and counted her tips. $23 for 8 hours of work. Her stomach tightened with familiar worry. She needed $40 for rent tomorrow. The math never worked. It never had. "Tessa, you're done for tonight," called Janet from behind the counter. Her manager's voice was sharp. "Don't be late again tomorrow." Tessa felt anger flash through her. She hadn't been late in 3 weeks, but she nodded and grabbed her thin jacket. The storm hit her face the moment she stepped outside. Rain soaked through her jacket in seconds. She pulled it tighter and hurried toward the bus stop. Then she saw him. An old man lay crumpled on the sidewalk. Rain poured over his frail body. People walked past him without stopping. Their umbrellas shielded them from seeing his pain. Tessa felt something break inside her chest. She ran to him. "Sir, are you hurt?" She knelt beside him. Her knees hit the cold pavement. His eyes opened slowly. They were cloudy with age and confusion. "I fell," he whispered. "Can't get up." Tessa pulled off her jacket. She covered his shaking shoulders. The rain instantly soaked her uniform shirt. "Let me help you." She slipped her arm under his. He weighed almost nothing. "Can you stand?" Together they made it to the diner. Janet looked annoyed when Tessa pushed through the door with the old man. "We're closed," Janet said. "He needs to get warm." Tessa guided him to a booth. "Just for a few minutes." Janet's expression softened slightly. She brought over a cup of coffee without being asked. The old man wrapped his weathered hands around the mug. His breathing slowed. Color returned to his cheeks. "Thank you," he said. His voice was stronger now. "You have a kind heart." Tessa felt warmth spread through her chest. Anyone would have helped. No. His eyes found hers. They were clearer now, sharper. "Most people look away. You didn't." He reached into his coat pocket. Tessa thought he might offer her money. She would refuse it. But instead he just squeezed her hand. "My family will remember you," he said quietly. Something in his tone made her breath catch. There was weight behind those words. Promise. Or warning. 20 minutes later, his ride arrived. A sleek black car pulled up outside. A younger man in an expensive suit helped the old man to his feet. "Thank you again," the old man said to Tessa. "You saved my life tonight." She watched them drive away. The rain had stopped, but she was still soaked to the bone. The bus ride home took 40 minutes. Tessa shivered in her wet clothes and counted her tips again. Still $23. Still not enough. Her apartment building loomed ahead. 5 stories of cracked brick and broken dreams. She climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. Her key stuck in the lock as usual. "Tessa?" Marcus's voice came from behind the door. "Is that you?" "Yes, baby, I'm home." The door opened to reveal her 7-year-old brother. His dark eyes were wide with worry. He threw his arms around her waist. Marcus hadn't spoken a word in public since their parents died 2 years ago. But at home with just her, he whispered his fears. "You're wet," he said against her shirt. "I got caught in the rain." She smoothed his hair. "Did you eat dinner?" He nodded and pointed to the empty cereal bowl on their small table. Tessa felt guilt twist in her stomach. Cereal again. She opened their refrigerator, 3 eggs, half a loaf of bread, a carton of milk that would expire tomorrow. "Are you hungry?" she asked. Marcus shook his head, but she heard his stomach rumble. She scrambled 2 eggs and made toast. They shared the meal in comfortable silence. Marcus ate slowly, savoring each bite. "Will you read to me?" he whispered when they finished. Tessa looked at the pile of bills on their counter. Rent due tomorrow, electric bill overdue. But Marcus was already pulling his favorite book from the shelf. They curled up on their second-hand couch. Marcus tucked himself against her side. She read about brave knights and distant kingdoms, places where good people were rewarded for their kindness. "Tessa," Marcus whispered when she closed the book, "will you always come home?" Her chest tightened. "Always, I promise." But she lay awake long after Marcus fell asleep. $23, $40 needed. Where would she find $17 by morning? The old man's words echoed in her mind. "My family will remember you." What had he meant? And why did those words make her feel afraid? Rain started again outside their window. Tessa listened to it fall and wondered if tomorrow would be different. If kindness really was rewarded in the real world. She fell asleep counting raindrops instead of money. The morning came too fast. Tessa woke to Marcus shaking her gently. "The alarm," he whispered. She bolted upright. 7:15. She was supposed to be at work by 8. "Get dressed, baby. I'll walk you to school." They moved through their morning. Routine quickly. Cold cereal for breakfast. Backpack check. Jacket that was still damp from last night. Marcus held her hand as they walked to his school. He never spoke to his teachers. Never answered questions in class. But his grades were perfect. Reading was his escape. "I'll pick you up at 3, she told him at the school gate. He nodded and squeezed her hand twice. Their secret signal for "I love you." Tessa ran the 6 blocks to the diner. She burst through the door at 8:05. Janet looked up from the register. Her expression was cold. "This is the 3rd time this month," Janet said. "I'm sorry. My brother needed—" "I don't want to hear excuses." Janet's voice was sharp. "One more time and I'm cutting your hours." Tessa felt panic spike through her chest. Fewer hours meant less money. Less money meant losing their apartment. "It won't happen again," she said. "It better not." Janet turned away. Table 6 needs coffee. The morning rush was brutal. Businessmen demanding perfect eggs. Tourists complaining about wait times. College students leaving dollar tips on $20 bills. Tessa smiled through it all. Her feet ached in her worn sneakers. Her back hurt from carrying heavy trays. But she smiled and said, "Thank you, and have a nice day." At noon, she finally got a break. She sat in the alley behind the diner and ate a stale muffin. The sun felt good on her face. That's when she noticed the black car. It was parked across the street. Expensive. Clean. Out of place in their shabby neighborhood. Through the diner window, she could see other customers noticing it too. They whispered to each other and glanced outside. The car had been there for an hour. Just waiting. Tessa felt unease creep up her spine. She thought about the old man from last night. His mysterious words about family. The back door of the diner opened. Janet stuck her head out. "Break's over. You've got customers." Tessa stood and brushed crumbs off her apron. When she looked across the street again, the car was gone. But the feeling of being watched remained. The afternoon dragged. Every time the door chimed, Tessa looked up expecting trouble. But it was just regular customers, office workers, stay-at-home moms, teenagers after school. At 2:30, the door opened again. This time, Trouble walked in. He was tall and broad-shouldered. His black suit was perfectly tailored. His dark hair was styled with precision. But it was his eyes that made Tessa's breath catch. Cold, calculating, dangerous. He scanned the diner like he owned it. His gaze landed on her and stopped. The entire restaurant fell silent. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the kitchen staff peered through the order window. The man walked to her section. He slid into a booth without waiting to be seated. Tessa grabbed a menu and water glass. Her hands shook slightly as she approached his table. "Welcome to Mel's Diner," she said. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. "Can I start you with something to drink?" "Coffee," he said. His voice was deep, controlled. "And sit down." "I'm sorry, I can't sit." His eyes found hers. "Please." Something in his tone made her slide into the booth across from him. She set the menu between them, like a shield. "You're Tessa Bryant," he said. It wasn't a question. "How do you know my name?" "You helped an old man last night, Angelo Russo." Recognition hit her. "The man in the rain? Is he okay?" "He's fine, thanks to you." The man studied her face. "I'm Nico Moretti." The name meant nothing to her, but around them she heard sharp intakes of breath. Someone dropped a coffee cup. It shattered on the floor. "I wanted to thank you," Nico continued. "Angelo is like family to me." Tessa felt relief wash through her. "You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have—" "No." His voice cut through her words. "Most people would have walked past. You stopped. You cared." He reached into his jacket. Tessa tensed, but he only pulled out a business card. "If you ever need anything," he said, sliding it across the table, "call me." Tessa looked at the card. It was simple, elegant, just his name and a phone number. "I don't understand," she said. "You showed kindness to someone I care about. That matters to me." Nico stood up. "But there's something else." He leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Other people noticed what you did last night. People who might want to hurt Angelo through you." His eyes found hers again. "Call me if anything strange happens. Anything at all." What kind of strange? But he was already walking away. At the door, he turned back. "Be careful, Tessa Bryant," he said. "The world isn't always kind to kind people." Then he was gone. The diner erupted in whispers the moment the door closed. "Do you know who that was?" asked Sarah, another waitress. Her face was pale. "Nico Moretti," Tessa said slowly. "He's—" Sarah looked around nervously. "He runs half of Brooklyn." Tessa felt cold dread settle in her stomach. She looked down at the business card. Such a simple piece of paper. But it felt heavy in her hands. Whatever she had stumbled into last night, it was bigger than helping an old man out of the rain. Much bigger. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Customers kept glancing at her, whispering. She heard fragments of conversation. "Moretti family? That poor girl. She doesn't know." At 3:00, Tessa clocked out and hurried to Marcus's school. She was 5 minutes late. He stood by the fence looking worried. "Sorry, baby," she said, taking his hand. "Work ran long." They walked home through familiar streets, but everything felt different now. Tessa found herself checking over her shoulder, scanning faces, looking for black cars. The business card burned in her pocket. At home, Marcus settled at their small table with his homework. Tessa made him a snack from their dwindling supplies, crackers and peanut butter, water instead of milk. She stared at their empty refrigerator and felt despair creep in. Tomorrow was rent day. She still had only $23, unless... She pulled out Nico Moretti's business card, studied the elegant numbers. No, she wouldn't call some dangerous man for money. She'd figure something else out. She always did. But at 7 o'clock, her phone rang. "Is this Tessa Bryant?" The voice was unfamiliar, rough. "Yes. Who is this?" "A friend. I heard you helped Angelo Russo last night." Tessa's chest tightened. "Who is this?" "Someone who wants to know what the old man told you." "Nothing. He didn't tell me anything." "Smart girls don't lie," the voice said. "Smart girls mind their own business." The line went dead. Tessa stared at the phone. Her hands were shaking. Marcus looked up from his coloring book. "Who was that?" he whispered. "Wrong number," she said quickly. But her mind was racing. What had Angelo told her? Just thanks. Just that his family would remember. Why would anyone care about that? She double-checked the locks on their door, drew the curtains closed, made dinner with the last of their eggs. But she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. At 9 o'clock, she tucked Marcus into bed, read him 3 stories instead of 1. He was tired but couldn't seem to settle. "Are we in trouble?" he whispered. "No, baby. We're fine." But the lie tasted bitter on her tongue. After Marcus fell asleep, Tessa sat at their kitchen table, bills spread before her, Nico's business card beside them. The phone call replayed in her mind. Someone who wants to know what the old man told you. She thought about Nico's warning. Other people noticed what you did last night. Had helping Angelo put them in danger? Had her one act of kindness destroyed their fragile safety? She picked up the business card, put it down, picked it up again. No, she wouldn't call him. She couldn't owe a man her neighbors whispered about in fear. But at 10:30, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside their door. Slow, deliberate, stopping right outside. Tessa held her breath. The footsteps continued down the hall, but she didn't sleep that night. Every sound made her jump. Every creak of the building sent her to check on Marcus. By morning, exhaustion weighed on her shoulders. But they were safe. They had made it through the night. She got Marcus ready for school as usual, walked him to his classroom, kissed his forehead goodbye. "I love you," she whispered. He squeezed her hand twice, but as Tessa walked to work, she felt eyes on her back. When she turned around, she saw nothing suspicious, just morning commuters heading to their jobs. Still, the feeling remained. At the diner, Janet barely looked at her. The morning rush was lighter than usual. Tessa found herself jumping every time the door chimed. But the hours passed quietly. No mysterious phone calls, no strange men in expensive suits. Maybe yesterday had been her imagination. Maybe the fear had made her paranoid. At noon, she stepped into the alley for her break. The sun was shining. Birds sang in the scraggly tree behind the dumpster. Everything felt normal again. Then 2 men appeared at the mouth of the alley. They were young, rough-looking. One had tattoos covering his neck. The other kept his hands in his jacket pockets. "Tessa Bryant?" the tattooed one called. Tessa's blood turned to ice. "What do you want?" "To talk." They stepped closer. "About Angelo Russo." "I don't know anything about him." "Come on, sweetheart." The second man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Old man must have said something. They always do." Tessa backed against the brick wall. "He just thanked me. That's all." "For what?" The tattooed man was close now. Too close. For helping him out of the rain? That's it? That's it. But they kept advancing. Tessa looked toward the street. Too far. No one would hear her scream over the traffic. "Please," she said. "I have a little brother. He's just 7. "Then you should have minded your own business." The tattooed man reached for her arm. A black SUV pulled into the alley. It moved fast and stopped hard between Tessa and the 2 men. The driver's door opened. Nico Moretti stepped out. He didn't say a word. Didn't make a sound. He just looked at the 2 men. They backed away immediately. "Mr. Moretti," the tattooed one said. His voice had changed. Fear replaced arrogance. "We were just leaving," Nico said quietly. "Yes, sir, right away." They ran, actually ran from the alley. Tessa pressed herself against the brick wall. Her whole body was shaking. Nico turned to her. His dark eyes searched her face. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. Words wouldn't come. "Get in the car," he said. "I have to work." "Get in the car, Tessa." His voice was gentle but firm. She found herself obeying. The SUV's interior was warm leather and expensive cologne. Tessa had never been in a vehicle this nice. "Who were they?" she asked. "Carmine Vitale's boys." Nico pulled out of the alley. "They work for a family that has issues with mine." "Why do they care about Angelo?" Nico was quiet for a long moment. "Angelo used to work for me. He retired years ago. But some people think he still knows things." "What kind of things?" "The kind that could hurt certain people if shared with police." Tessa felt sick. "And they think he told me these things?" "Yes. But he didn't. He just said thank you." "I know that. You know that." Nico turned onto her street. "But they don't." He parked in front of her building. Tessa reached for the door handle. "This isn't over," Nico said quietly. She turned back to him. "What do you mean?" "Carmine's not going to stop. He thinks Angelo passed information to you. He'll keep sending people until he finds out what you know." "But I don't know anything." "That doesn't matter to him." Tessa felt despair wash over her. "So what am I supposed to do?" "Let me protect you." "I can't. You have a little brother to think about." The words hit her chest. Marcus. Sweet, silent Marcus who trusted her to keep him safe. "What would that mean?" she asked quietly. "I watch over you. Make sure Carmine's people don't get close." "And what do you want in return?" Something shifted in his expression. "Nothing. Nobody does something for nothing." "I do." His voice was soft, sincere, but Tessa had learned not to trust sincerity from men with power. "I need to think about it," she said. Nico nodded. "Don't think too long. Carmine won't wait." Tessa got out of the SUV. She climbed the stairs to their apartment with Nico's words echoing in her mind. "Let me protect you." But protection always came with a price, and she was terrified to learn what his price would be. Tessa unlocked her apartment door with trembling hands. The familiar creak usually comforted her. Today it sounded like a warning. She checked every room. Under Marcus's bed, behind the shower curtain, in their tiny closet, everything was exactly as she'd left it. But something felt wrong. She walked to the kitchen window and peered through the blinds. Nico's SUV was gone. The street looked normal. Kids playing on stoops, Mrs. Chen watering her flowers. Then she saw it. A white envelope taped to the inside of her door. She hadn't noticed it when she came in. Her name was written across the front in block letters. Tessa's hand shook as she peeled it off. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Stay quiet about the old man. Last warning." The paper fluttered to the floor. Tessa felt panic rise in her throat. They had been inside her home while she was at work. while Marcus was at school. They could come back any time. She grabbed her phone and stared at Nico's business card. Her pride warred with her fear. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford, not when Marcus's safety was at stake. She dialed the number. "Tessa?" Nico answered on the first ring. "They were in my apartment." Her voice cracked. "They left a note. I'm on my way. Don't touch anything else." "How did you know it was me?" "I've been waiting for your call." The line went dead. Tessa paced their small living room. 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. A knock came at the door, soft but confident. "It's Nico." She opened the door to find him standing with another man. This one was shorter, older, with silver at his temples. "This is Enzo," Nico said, stepping inside. "My right hand." Enzo nodded to Tessa but said nothing. His eyes swept the apartment with professional assessment. Nico picked up the note with a handkerchief. He read it twice. "Same handwriting as before?" he asked. "Before?" Tessa's stomach dropped. "There were others?" 3 apartment buildings on this block got similar notes. Carmine's fishing, seeing who scares easy. Enzo spoke for the first time. "No signs of forced entry. They picked the locks." "How long was I gone?" Tessa asked. "Doesn't matter," Nico said. "They're professionals. 30 seconds would be enough." Tessa sank onto their couch. "What am I going to do? I can't afford to move. Can't afford security." "You don't need to afford it." Nico sat across from her. "I'm posting guards on this building. Tonight. I can't accept. You can and you will." His voice was firm. "Because at 3 o'clock you're going to pick up Marcus from school, and I'm going with you." "No." Tessa stood up. "I won't have him see this. Won't have him afraid." "He'll be more afraid if something happens to you." The truth of it hit her hard. Marcus had already lost their parents. If something happened to her... "The guards will be subtle," Enzo said. "Your brother won't notice them." "How subtle can armed men be?" "Very," Nico said quietly. "When they work for me." At 2:30, they walked to Marcus's school. Nico stayed half a block behind, close enough to help, far enough to avoid attention. Marcus ran to Tessa when he saw her at the gate. He squeezed her waist tight. "You're early," he whispered. "Thought we could get ice cream." His face lit up. Ice cream was a rare treat in their world. They walked to the corner shop. Marcus pressed his nose against the freezer glass, choosing carefully between chocolate and strawberry. "Strawberry," he decided. "Please." While he ate, Tessa watched the street. Everything looked normal. But she knew Nico was nearby. The knowledge should have made her angry. Instead, it made her feel safer than she had all day. "Can we go to the park?" Marcus asked. "Not today, baby. Let's go home." His face fell slightly, but he nodded and took her hand. Back at their apartment building, Tessa noticed a man reading a newspaper on the front steps. He looked like any other resident, but something about his posture seemed too alert. Another man walked past their window twice. Different clothes, same watchful eyes. Marcus didn't notice. He was busy with his homework, math problems and reading comprehension, normal 7-year-old concerns. "Tessa," he whispered as she helped him with multiplication, "are we safe?" Her chest tightened. "What makes you ask that? You seem scared today." She was, terrified, but she couldn't let him carry that burden. "I'm just tired," she said. "Long day at work." Marcus studied her face. He was too smart for 7, too aware of emotions adults tried to hide. "Okay," he said finally, but she could tell he didn't believe her. That evening, Tessa made dinner from their last can of soup. She mixed it with rice to make it stretch. Marcus ate without complaint. As they washed dishes together, someone knocked at the door. Tessa froze. Marcus pressed against her side. "Who is it?" she called. "Nico." She opened the door to find him holding 2 grocery bags and a pizza box. "You didn't eat enough today," he said, walking past her into the kitchen. "How could you possibly know that? When people are scared, they forget to eat." He unpacked the bags. Fresh fruit, milk, bread, real food. "Who's this?" Marcus had emerged from behind Tessa's legs. He stared up at Nico with huge dark eyes. "This is my brother Marcus," Tessa said. "Marcus, this is Mr. Moretti." "Nico," he corrected gently. He crouched down to Marcus's level. "How old are you?" Marcus held up 7 fingers. "7's a good age," Nico said. "I was 7 when my grandfather taught me to play chess. Do you like games?" Marcus nodded shyly. "Maybe I can teach you chess sometime, if your sister says it's okay." Marcus looked at Tessa hopefully. She felt something warm and dangerous bloom in her chest. "We'll see," she said. Nico stood up. "You should eat the pizza while it's hot. I got half plain for Marcus, half pepperoni for you." "How did you know he likes plain pizza?" "Lucky guess." But Tessa suspected it wasn't luck. Somehow Nico had learned about them, about Marcus's simple taste, about their life. The thought should have frightened her. Instead, she felt cared for in a way she hadn't experienced since their parents died. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome." Marcus tugged at her sleeve. "Can he stay for dinner?" Tessa looked at Nico. He raised an eyebrow, waiting for her decision. "I suppose," she said, "if he wants to." "I'd like that." They ate at her small table. Nico folded his tall frame into Marcus's tiny chair. He asked Marcus about school, about his favorite subjects, about the books he liked to read. Marcus whispered his answers, but he answered. That was progress. "He doesn't usually talk to strangers," Tessa said. "I'm not a stranger," Nico said simply. "I'm someone who wants to keep you both safe." After dinner, Marcus brought out his chess set. It was old and battered. Half the pieces were mismatched, but Nico treated it like treasure. "This was your father's?" he asked Marcus. Marcus nodded. "He taught you to play?" Another nod. "Show me what you remember." For the next hour, Tessa watched a dangerous man patiently help her little brother remember their father's lessons. Nico's voice was soft, his movements careful. He let Marcus win twice. When Marcus's bedtime came, he hugged Nico goodbye. A real hug. The kind he usually saved only for her. "Will you come back?" Marcus whispered. "If your sister wants me to." Marcus looked at Tessa with pleading eyes. "We'll see," she said again. After Marcus was asleep, Tessa and Nico sat on her couch. The space felt smaller with him in it, more intimate. "He's a good kid," Nico said. "He's everything to me." "I can see that." He was quiet for a moment. "How long have you been taking care of him?" 2 years, since our parents died in a car accident." "No other family?" "Just us." Something shifted in his expression. Pain flickered behind his eyes. "What about you?" she asked. "Do you have family?" "Not anymore." The words were simple, but the weight behind them was enormous. "I'm sorry," she said. "My wife and daughter died 3 years ago. Car bomb meant for me." Tessa's breath caught. "Oh, God, Nico, I'm so—" "My daughter was 7, same age as Marcus." The admission hung between them, heavy with grief and regret. "Is that why you're helping us?" she asked quietly. "Because Marcus reminds you of her?" "Partly." He looked at her directly. "But also because you're good people, and good people shouldn't suffer for other people's wars." "What war?" "The one between my family and Carmine's. It's been going on for years. Angelo got caught in the middle because he used to keep our books. Carmine thinks he knows where certain money is hidden. Does he? Angelo's 80 years old. He barely remembers what he had for breakfast. But Carmine won't believe that. Tessa felt overwhelmed. I just helped an old man out of the rain. How did that turn into this? Sometimes kindness has consequences. Nico stood up. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure out long-term solutions. What kind of solutions? The kind that keep you alive. After he left, Tessa locked the door and checked on Marcus. He was sleeping peacefully. His chess pieces were arranged on his nightstand, ready for another game. She lay in her own bed thinking about Nico's revelation. A wife and daughter gone because of violence. The same violence now threatening her and Marcus. But there had been something else in his eyes when he looked at her brother. Not just grief, protectiveness. The fierce kind that fathers felt. Could she trust it? Could she trust him? Outside, she heard footsteps. The guards Nico had promised, men who would watch their building through the night. For the first time in days, Tessa felt safe enough to sleep. She woke to sunlight streaming through their thin curtains. Marcus was already up, dressed for school, eating cereal at their table. "You're up early," she said. "I wanted to organize my chess pieces," he whispered, "for when Nico comes back." "Baby, I don't know if—" A knock interrupted her, soft but confident. "It's Nico." Tessa opened the door in her pajamas. Nico held 2 coffee cups and a bag from the bakery down the street. "Good morning," he said. His eyes swept over her briefly. Something warm flickered in them. "I brought breakfast. You can't keep buying us food." "I can and I will." He handed her a coffee. "We need to talk about your living situation." Marcus appeared at her elbow. "Did you bring the chessboard?" Nico smiled. "Next time. Today I thought we could walk to school together." "All of us?" Marcus's eyes went wide. "If that's okay with your sister." Marcus looked at Tessa hopefully. She felt her resistance weakening. "Just to school," she said. "Then I have to work." The walk took 15 minutes. Marcus held her hand but stayed close to Nico's side. He whispered questions about chess strategy. Nico answered each one seriously. At the school gate, Marcus hugged them both goodbye, as if they were both his guardians, as if they were family. "He likes you," Tessa said as they watched him run to his classroom. "I like him too." There was something in Nico's voice, affection, but also pain. She wondered if being around Marcus hurt as much as it helped. "About my living situation," she said as they walked to the diner. "Your apartment isn't safe. The locks are cheap. The guards can't be everywhere." "So what are you suggesting?" "Come stay at my place. Temporarily." Tessa stopped walking. "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because I know what men expect when women accept their help." Nico's expression hardened. "I'm not most men." "You're still a man." "Fair enough." He started walking again. "But consider the alternative." "Which is?" "Carmine escalates, sends more people. Eventually, they don't just want to talk." The words sent ice through her veins. "You're trying to scare me." "I'm trying to save your life." They reached the diner. Through the windows, Tessa could see the morning rush beginning. Janet would be looking for her soon. "I need to work," she said. "Actually, you don't." "What do you mean?" "I paid your rent for 3 months and left grocery money with your landlord." Tessa felt anger flash through her. "You had no right." "I had every right." His voice was calm but firm. "You're under my protection now. That means I provide for you." "I didn't agree to be under your protection." "You called me yesterday. You asked for help." "Not this kind of help." There's only one kind of help in this situation, Tessa. Complete protection or none at all. She stared at him. This man who had appeared in her life less than 48 hours ago, who was now trying to control every aspect of it. I won't be your kept woman, she said quietly. I'm not asking you to be. Then what are you asking? Let me keep you safe until this is over. And when will it be over? When Carmine realizes Angelo doesn't know anything useful, or when I convince him to look elsewhere. How long could that take? Weeks, maybe months. Tessa felt trapped, caught between pride and survival, between independence and Marcus's safety. If I say yes, she said slowly, what would the rules be? You and Marcus live in my house. You don't go anywhere alone. You let my people handle your safety. That's it? That's it. She searched his face for deception, for hidden expectations, but his dark eyes were steady, honest. I need to think about it, she said. How long? Give me today. I'll decide tonight. Nico nodded. But don't go anywhere alone, not even to work. I have to. Call in sick. Stay with Marcus. I'll have someone bring you whatever you need. Before she could argue, he was walking away, leaving her standing outside the diner with a choice that felt impossible. Stay and risk their lives, or accept help that might cost their independence. Either way, everything was about to change. That afternoon, Tessa picked up Marcus from school with Enzo shadowing them. The older man stayed far enough back to avoid attention, close enough to intervene if needed. At home, Marcus spread his homework across their table. Math, reading, a science project about weather patterns. Can Nico help me with my project? He whispered. Maybe, if he comes by tonight. He will, Marcus said with confidence. He promised to teach me about chess openings. How had Nico become so important to Marcus so quickly? Her brother was usually shy with adults, suspicious of new people. But with Nico, he'd opened up immediately. At 6 o'clock, someone knocked. Tessa expected Nico. Instead, she found a young woman holding several shopping bags. Delivery from Mr. Moretti, the woman said cheerfully, dinner and groceries. The bags contained enough food for a week. Fresh vegetables, quality meat, ice cream for Marcus, coffee for her. Nico was providing for them, protecting them, inserting himself into their lives with quiet determination. The smart thing would be to refuse, to maintain her independence at all costs. But Marcus deserved better than cereal for dinner and fear for his safety. When Nico arrived at 7, she was ready with her answer. We'll come, she said before he could speak. His expression didn't change, but she saw relief in his eyes. When? He asked. Tonight, after Marcus is asleep, we'll pack. I'll send someone to help. No, we'll do it ourselves. He nodded. My car will be here at 9. That evening, Tessa helped Marcus pack his favorite clothes and toys. His chess set went into the bag first, then his books, the stuffed elephant their mother had given him. Are we moving? He whispered. Just for a little while, until some problems get worked out. What kind of problems? How could she explain Mafia wars to a 7-year-old? How could she make him understand that helping an old man had put them in danger? Adult problems, she said finally, but Nico is going to help us fix them. Marcus smiled. I like Nico. I know you do. Do you like him? The question caught her off guard. Did she? He was commanding, overwhelming, dangerous in ways she couldn't fully understand. But he was also gentle with Marcus, protective without being possessive. And when he looked at her, she saw respect instead of hunger. I think so, she said honestly. At 9 o'clock, the black SUV pulled up outside. Nico got out and climbed their stairs. He carried their bags without comment. Marcus held both their hands as they walked to the car, as if they were already a family. The drive to Nico's house took 20 minutes, through familiar streets into neighborhoods Tessa had never seen. The buildings grew larger, the trees more numerous. Finally, they stopped in front of a brownstone. 4 stories of elegant stone and wrought iron, windows glowing with warm light. "This is home," Nico said simply. "Home." The word hit Tessa's chest unexpectedly. She hadn't felt at home anywhere since her parents died. She'd been surviving, protecting Marcus, but never truly at home. As they climbed the front steps, she wondered if that might be about to change. Inside, the house was beautiful, but not ostentatious. Comfortable furniture, family photos, books everywhere. "Marcus, would you like to see your room?" Nico asked. Her brother nodded eagerly. They climbed a curved staircase to the second floor. Marcus's room was perfect. Twin bed with blue blankets, desk for homework, bookshelf already filled with classics, and in the corner a chessboard set up and ready. "Is this really mine?" Marcus whispered. "For as long as you need it," Nico said. Marcus threw his arms around Nico's waist. "Thank you." Tessa felt tears prick her eyes. When was the last time someone had given Marcus something just because they wanted to? When had anyone shown him such kindness? "Your room is across the hall," Nico told Tessa. Her room was larger than their entire apartment. Queen bed with soft linens, reading chair by the window, fresh flowers on the dresser. "It's too much," she said. "It's what you deserve." The words hung between them, loaded with meaning she wasn't ready to examine. "The kitchen is always stocked," he continued. "Help yourself to anything. There's a garden out back where Marcus can play safely." "Where will you be?" "3rd floor, but I travel for work sometimes. Enzo lives in the building next door. He'll be around if you need anything." It sounded reasonable, safe, but Tessa felt overwhelmed by the generosity. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. Nico was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "Because good people shouldn't suffer for my failures. And because—" He paused. "Because you make me remember what I'm fighting to protect." Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving her alone in a room that felt too big and too safe and too much everything. From across the hall, she heard Marcus giggling. Actually giggling. A sound she hadn't heard in months. Maybe accepting help wasn't giving up her independence. Maybe it was finally giving Marcus what he needed. What they both needed. A chance to stop just surviving and start living again. Tessa woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. Nico's house, his protection, his world. She could hear voices downstairs. Marcus's whisper mixed with deeper tones. She threw on her robe and hurried to the kitchen. Marcus sat at a large wooden table, eating pancakes. Nico stood at the stove, flipping another batch. He wore jeans and a simple black t-shirt. Without his suit, he looked younger, more approachable. "Good morning," he said without turning around. "Coffee's fresh." "You didn't have to cook." "I wanted to." He glanced at Marcus. "Someone requested Mickey Mouse pancakes." Marcus held up his plate proudly. The pancakes were lopsided but unmistakably mouse-shaped. "They're perfect," Tessa said, kissing the top of his head. "Nico makes them better than you," Marcus whispered. "Hey," Tessa protested, "I make excellent pancakes." "Burnt pancakes," Marcus corrected with a shy smile. Nico laughed. The sound was rich and warm. It transformed his entire face. "Your sister works very hard. he told Marcus. "Cooking is just practice." After breakfast, Nico showed them the rest of the house. A library filled with leather-bound books, a sitting room with a piano, a study lined with family photos. "Is this your daughter?" Tessa asked, stopping in front of one frame. A little girl with dark curls smiled back at her. She was sitting on a swing, laughing at something off camera. "Sophia," Nico said quietly. "She would have been 10 next month." Marcus studied the photo solemnly. "She looks happy." "She was." Nico's voice was rough. "She laughed at everything, even my terrible jokes." "I like terrible jokes," Marcus whispered. Something shifted in Nico's expression. Surprise mixed with pain, and something that might have been hope. "Maybe I'll tell you some later." They finished the tour in the garden. It was bigger than Tessa had expected. Fruit trees lined stone paths. A small pond reflected the morning sky. "Can I feed the fish?" Marcus asked. "Every morning if you want," Nico said. "They're expecting you now." Marcus knelt by the pond's edge. Goldfish swam to the surface, waiting for breakfast. He scattered food carefully, making sure each fish got some. "He's good with living things," Tessa observed, "like his sister." She turned to find Nico watching her instead of Marcus. Something in his gaze made her breath catch. "I should call work," she said quickly. "Let them know I won't be in." "Already handled. I told them you were taking family leave." "You what?" Anger flashed through her. "You can't just make decisions about your safety?" "Yes, I can." "That's not what I meant." "I know what you meant." His voice was calm. "But right now, your safety is more important than your pride." The words stung because they were true. She was angry at him for taking control, but also grateful that she didn't have to face Janet's questions or serve customers while looking over her shoulder. "How long?" she asked. "Until it's safe." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." A phone rang inside the house. Enzo appeared at the back door. "Boss, you need to take this." Nico's expression hardened. "Stay in the garden," he told Tessa. "Both of you." He disappeared inside. Through the windows, she could see him pacing while he talked. His voice was too low to hear, but his posture was tense. "Is he angry?" Marcus whispered. "I don't think so. Just busy with work." 20 minutes later, Nico returned. His face was grim. "What's wrong?" Tessa asked. "Carmine made a move. He's been asking questions about you at Marcus's school." Ice shot through Tessa's veins. "What kind of questions?" "About your schedule, where you live, who picks Marcus up." Marcus looked between them, sensing the tension. "Are we in trouble?" "No, baby," Tessa said quickly. "Everything's fine." But her hands were shaking. The school was Marcus's safe place, his refuge from their complicated world. "He won't go back." "There," she said to Nico. "Not until this is over." "Agreed. I've arranged for a tutor to come here." "You can't just—" "I can and I will." His voice was steel. "This isn't about control, Tessa. It's about survival." That afternoon, the tutor arrived. Mrs. Chen was elderly and kind, with endless patience for Marcus's whispered answers. She set up lessons in the library, turning it into a classroom. Marcus adapted quickly. He always did. But Tessa saw the worry in his eyes when he thought she wasn't looking. "Are we ever going home?" he whispered during lunch. "This is home for now," she said. "Our apartment will still be there when it's safe." "What if it's never safe?" The question hit her hard. What if this wasn't temporary? What if Carmine never gave up? What if their old life was gone forever? "It will be," she said firmly. "I promise." But the promise tasted like lies. That evening, Nico found her in the library. Marcus was asleep upstairs, exhausted from his first day of tutoring. "How is he adjusting?" Nico asked. "Better than me." Tessa closed the book she'd been pretending to read. "He likes it here, the attention, the stability." "And you don't?" "I don't like owing people." "You don't owe me anything." "Don't I?" She stood up and faced him. "Food, shelter, protection, safety for my brother. What do you call that?" "Doing what's right." "Nobody does what's right without expecting something back." Nico moved closer, not threatening, but intense. "What do you think I want from you?" The question hung between them, loaded with possibility. "I don't know," she admitted. "That's what scares me." "I want you safe. I want Marcus happy. I want to sleep at night knowing I didn't fail another family." "Another family?" "I failed my wife and daughter. Let my enemies get too close. Cost them their lives." His voice was raw. "I won't make that mistake again." The admission broke something open in her chest. "Their deaths weren't your fault." "Weren't they? I knew the risks, knew what my life cost, but I brought them into it anyway." "Because you loved them." "Love isn't enough if you can't protect what you love." Tessa saw the guilt eating at him, the weight of responsibility and failure. "Is that what we are?" she asked quietly. "Your chance at redemption?" "Maybe." His honesty surprised her. "Does that bother you?" It should have. Being someone's second chance, their path to forgiveness. But something in his eyes made her chest warm. Devotion, determination. The fierce protectiveness she'd glimpsed when he looked at Marcus. "Ask me again in a month," she said. A smile tugged at his lips. "I will." Days blended into routine. Mrs. Chen arrived each morning for Marcus's lessons. Enzo came and went with reports for Nico. Guards patrolled the perimeter, invisible but present. Marcus thrived. His confidence grew daily. He laughed more, asked questions without whispering, even started telling Nico's terrible jokes to Mrs. Chen. "Why don't elephants use computers?" he asked during lunch. "I don't know," Tessa said, playing along. "Because they're afraid of the mouse." Marcus dissolved into giggles. Nico grinned. "That's my best one." "Your worst one," Tessa corrected. "It's terrible." "The best jokes are terrible," Marcus said seriously. "That's what makes them funny." Watching them together made Tessa's chest ache. Marcus had never had a father figure, never had someone to share silly jokes with, to teach him chess and fix his broken toys. "Nico," Marcus said that evening after dinner, "can I call you Papa?" The question fell into silence. Nico's expression went very still. "If you want to," he said quietly. "I want to." Marcus threw his arms around Nico's waist. Over his head, Nico's eyes found Tessa's. She saw wonder there, gratitude, and something deeper, something that made her pulse race. Later that night, after Marcus was asleep, she found Nico on the back terrace. He sat in darkness, staring at the garden. "You okay?" she asked. "He called me Papa." "I heard. I never thought—" He trailed off. "I never thought I'd be anyone's father again." Tessa sat beside him. "Does it hurt, being around him?" "Sometimes, but not the way I expected." He was quiet for a moment. "It hurts because it reminds me what I lost, but it also reminds me what I'm fighting for." "Which is?" "Family, home, the chance to protect what matters." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. "Nico," she said carefully, "what happens when this is over? When Carmine gives up? What do you want to happen?" The honest answer scared her. She'd grown used to this house, this life, watching Marcus flourish under Nico's attention, feeling safe for the first time in years. "I don't know," she said instead. Then we'll figure it out together. The promise felt solid, real, like something she could build a future on. But first, they had to survive the present. 3 days later, the present caught up with them. Tessa was reading in the library when Enzo burst through the front door. "Where's the boss?" he asked, breathing hard. "Upstairs." "Why? What's wrong?" Carmine's people grabbed Marcus's teacher, Mrs. Chen. The book fell from Tessa's hands. "What do you mean grabbed?" "Snatched her off the street 3 blocks from here. Left a message." Nico appeared at the top of the stairs. One look at Enzo's face told him everything. "Talk," he said, coming down fast. Mrs. Chen was shopping for groceries. 2 men forced her into a car. Witnesses saw the whole thing. And the message? Trade the kid for the teacher. Tonight, Pier 17. Tessa's world tilted sideways. They want Marcus? They think he knows something, Nico said grimly. Something Angelo told you that you told him. But Angelo didn't tell me anything, and I would never I know. Nico's voice was calm, deadly. But Carmine doesn't. So what do we do? We get Mrs. Chen back. How? Leave that to me. He turned to Enzo. Get everyone, full crew, and call Angelo. Boss, Angelo's 80 years old. This started with Angelo. It ends with Angelo. Enzo nodded and pulled out his phone. Tessa grabbed Nico's arm. What about Marcus? Safe room, 3rd floor, bulletproof walls, independent power. He stays there until this is over. I'm not leaving him. You're not going anywhere either. Like hell I'm not. Anger flared through her fear. They took Mrs. Chen because of me. I'm not hiding while you fix my problems. Your problems? Nico's voice was dangerous. This is my war, Tessa. My responsibility. Not anymore. You made it mine when you brought us here. They stared at each other, neither backing down. Besides, she continued, if they really think Marcus knows something, they won't hurt the teacher until they get him. You have leverage. Smart girls think before they act. Smart girls protect their families. Something shifted in his expression, respect mixed with frustration. Fine, but you stay with me. Every second, no heroics. Agreed. An hour later, they stood on Pier 17. The Hudson River stretched black under cloudy skies. Warehouse lights reflected off the water. Nico's crew spread out along the pier, hidden but ready. Enzo stood at his right side, Tessa at his left. You sure about this? Enzo asked quietly. No, Nico admitted, but it's what we've got. A black sedan pulled up at the pier's entrance. 4 men got out. One of them held Mrs. Chen by the arm. She looked scared but unharmed. When she saw Tessa, relief flooded her face. Moretti, the lead man called. You bring the kid? I brought something better, Nico called back. The truth. He stepped forward. Tessa moved with him. Their footsteps echoed off the concrete. Angelo Russo never told the Bryant family anything useful, Nico continued, because Angelo doesn't remember anything useful. That's not what we heard. Then you heard wrong. A 5th figure emerged from behind the sedan, Carmine Vitale himself, short, stocky, expensive suit over a cheap soul. Nico Moretti, Carmine said, walking closer, still protecting strays. Still making mistakes, Nico replied evenly. The old man knows where the Torino money is buried, 20 million in cash. The old man knows where he put his coffee cup this morning. Maybe. Someone knows. And if it's not him, it's the people he talked to. Carmine's eyes found Tessa. She felt ice crawl up her spine. Pretty little thing, he said. Shame she got involved in business that doesn't concern her. Let the teacher go, Nico said. We'll settle this between us. I don't think so. Carmine smiled. I think the lady comes with me. Insurance policy. That's not happening. Then the old woman dies. The standoff stretched, 30 feet of concrete between two groups of armed men. Mrs. Chen in the middle, terrified but trying to stay calm. Tessa made her choice. She stepped forward. Wait, she called to Carmine. I'll come with you, but first, let me prove Angelo. Didn't tell me anything. Tessa, no. Nico grabbed her arm. It's okay. She looked at him directly. Trust me. Something in her eyes made him release her arm. She walked toward Carmine, stopped 10 feet away. Angelo Russo spent 3 minutes in our diner, she said clearly. He thanked me for helping him. He said his family would remember me. That's all. That's it. That's it. No money, no locations, no secrets, just an old man grateful for kindness. Carmine studied her face, looking for deception. You're lying. I'm not, and I can prove it. She pulled out her phone, dialed a number she'd memorized but never used. Angelo? It's Tessa Bryant, the woman who helped you in the rain? Yes, I'm fine. Listen, I need you to tell someone something. She held out the phone to Carmine. Talk to him yourself. Carmine hesitated, then took the phone. Angelo? It's Carmine Vitale. Yeah, I remember you too. Listen, old man, I need to know what you told the Bryant girl. What? Say that again? His face changed as he listened. Confusion replaced certainty. You sure about that? Alzheimer's? How long? Shit. He hung up and tossed the phone back to Tessa. He doesn't remember anything, Carmine said, more to himself than anyone. Can't remember anything. Doctor says his memory's been going for 2 years. I tried to tell you, Nico said. The Torino money is gone, spent, lost, or maybe it never existed. Nico's voice was calm. Either way, Angelo can't help you find it. The truth settled over them. All this violence, all this fear, for nothing. Carmine looked at Mrs. Chen, at his men, at the pier where he'd planned to commit murder over a fantasy. Let her go, he said finally. Mrs. Chen ran to Tessa. They held each other tightly. This isn't over, Carmine told Nico. Yes, it is. Your beef was with Angelo. Angelo's memory is gone. It's over. Carmine stared at him for a long moment, then nodded curtly. Stay out of my territory. You stay out of mine. The sedan pulled away. Carmine's men followed. The pier fell silent except for water lapping against the pylons. Is it really over? Tessa asked. It's over, Nico said. Carmine's pride is wounded, but he's not stupid. He won't waste more resources on a dead end. Mrs. Chen was shaking in her arms. I want to go home, she whispered. We all do, Tessa said quietly. But as they walked back to the cars, she realized something had changed. Home wasn't their old apartment anymore. Home was wherever Marcus was safe, wherever Nico was. Home was the brownstone with the garden and the terrible jokes and the chess games. Home was the life they'd built together while hiding from danger. The question was, would that home survive now that the danger was gone? Back at the house, Marcus flew into their arms. He'd spent the evening in the safe room with Enzo's partner, playing video games and eating pizza. Where's Mrs. Chen? He asked. She's going to visit family for a few days, Tessa said. But she's safe. Marcus studied their faces. Are we safe too? Yes, Nico said firmly. We're all safe now. Later that night, after Marcus was asleep, Tessa and Nico sat in the library. The house felt different now, peaceful instead of protected, calm instead of careful. So what happens now? She asked. Now you get to choose. Choose what? Whether you want to go back to your old life, or stay and build a new one. The question she'd been avoiding for weeks. the choice between independence and belonging. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want you to stay. Both of you." His voice was rough. "I want Marcus to keep calling me Papa. I want to wake up every morning knowing you're safe. I want to build something real with you." Something real? A family, a future. Everything I lost and thought I'd never have again. Tessa looked around the library, at the shelves full of books Marcus could read, at the window overlooking the garden where he fed fish every morning, at the chessboard where he learned strategy and confidence. "I don't know how to be part of someone else's life," she said quietly. "Neither do I. We'll learn together." What if it doesn't work? What if it does? The possibility hung between them, fragile and precious and terrifying. "Tessa," Nico said softly, "I love you." The words hit her chest like a physical blow. Not because she didn't want to hear them, but because she did. More than she'd ever wanted anything. "I love you too," she whispered. He crossed the room and knelt beside her chair, took her hands in his. "Then stay. Let me love you properly. Let me be Marcus's father. Let me give you the life you deserve." Tears ran down her cheeks. What life do I deserve? Safety, happiness, someone who puts you first, always. She looked at this dangerous man offering her tenderness. This grieving father who'd found hope in her broken family. This protector who asked for nothing but the chance to love them. "Yes," she breathed. He kissed her then, soft and careful and full of promise, the first kiss of their real beginning. When they broke apart, Marcus stood in the doorway. His hair was messy from sleep. His eyes were bright with mischief. "Are you going to get married?" he asked. Tessa laughed through her tears. "Maybe someday." "Good." Marcus climbed into the chair with them. "I want Nico to be my papa forever." "Forever," Nico agreed, wrapping his arms around both of them. And for the first time in years, forever felt possible. 6 months later, Tessa unlocked the door to her new cafe. Sunlight streamed through the windows she'd cleaned herself. The coffee machine hummed quietly, ready for the morning rush. She'd named it Second Chances. The sign outside was simple, elegant, like everything else Nico touched. He'd bought the building quietly, put it in her name. Let her design every detail from the menu to the mismatched chairs that made the place feel like home. "You're early," called Maria from behind the counter. She was Tessa's first hire, a single mother who understood second chances. "Couldn't sleep," Tessa said, tying on her apron. "Big day." Today marked their official 6-month anniversary. Of the cafe, of living together, of becoming a family. The morning rush brought familiar faces. Mrs. Patterson from the bookstore next door, Detective Rodriguez who worked the neighborhood beat, college students who'd made the cafe their study spot. They came for the coffee and stayed for the atmosphere. Warm, welcoming, safe. At 10 o'clock the door chimed. Marcus burst in wearing his school uniform. His backpack bounced against his legs. "Tessa!" He wasn't whispering anymore. His voice carried across the cafe. "Mrs. Chen says I can read to the kindergarten class next week." "That's wonderful, baby." Mrs. Chen had returned from her family visit and resumed tutoring. But now Marcus went to regular school too. Half days to start. He was making friends, laughing loudly, being 7 instead of carrying adult worries. "Where's Papa?" Marcus asked, looking around. "Meeting with Angelo. They'll be here for lunch." Marcus nodded and climbed onto a stool at the counter. Maria gave him a chocolate chip muffin, his favorite. "Can I do homework here?" he asked. "Always." He spread his books across a corner table. Math worksheets and reading assignments. Normal kid problems in their normal kid life. Tessa watched him work and felt gratitude bloom in her chest. This was what peace felt like. Ordinary moments strung together into extraordinary days. At noon, Nico walked through the door. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater. No tie, no suit. Just a man meeting his family for lunch. Angelo followed slowly. His cane tapped against the wooden floor. He looked frailer than he had 6 months ago, but his eyes were still sharp, still kind. "Papa!" Marcus launched himself at Nico. "Careful!" Nico laughed, catching him. "Angelo's old bones can't handle your enthusiasm." "I'm not that old," Angelo protested, but he was smiling. "How's school, young man?" "Good. I'm reading Charlotte's Web. It's about a pig and a spider who are best friends." "Ah, a classic. Your papa read that book to his daughter when she was your age." Marcus looked at Nico with wide eyes. "Really?" "Really. Sophia loved it. Cried when Charlotte died." They'd reached the point where Nico could mention Sophia without pain shadowing his face. The memories were still tender, but they no longer broke him. "Will you read it to me tonight?" Marcus asked. "If you want." "I want." They ordered lunch, sandwiches for the men, soup for Angelo. Marcus got grilled cheese cut into triangles. "How's business?" Angelo asked Tessa. "Good. Better than I expected?" "Word travels fast when coffee's this good," Nico said, touching her hand briefly. The gesture was automatic now, small touches throughout the day. His way of staying connected to her way of knowing she was loved. "Any word from Carmine?" she asked, quietly. "Nothing. He's focused on his own territory now. Smarter investments than chasing ghosts." The Vitale family had retreated after the peer confrontation. No more threats, no more watching eyes, just peace and the space to build something real. "Good," Angelo said firmly. "Enough violence. Time for living." After lunch, Marcus hugged Angelo goodbye. The old man's eyes filled with tears. They always did. "You remind me of my grandson at that age," Angelo told him, "before the world got complicated." "I'm sorry your grandson got complicated," Marcus said seriously. Angelo laughed. "Me too, little one. Me too." The afternoon brought steady customers. Tessa moved between tables, taking orders and making conversation. This was her domain. Her creation. Her proof that second chances could work. At 4:00, Detective Rodriguez stopped by for his usual coffee. "How's the family?" he asked. "Good. Marcus starts full days next week." "And Moretti?" "Happy. We're all happy." Rodriguez nodded approvingly. He'd been skeptical at first, a cop watching a waitress take up with a mob boss. But he'd seen the changes. Marcus's confidence, Tessa's peace, even Nico's transformation from dangerous loner to devoted father. "Happiness looks good on you," Rodriguez said. At closing time, Tessa counted the register while Maria cleaned tables. Another good day. The cafe was thriving. "See you tomorrow," Maria called, heading home to her own children. Tessa finished the books and turned off the lights. Through the window, she could see Nico's car waiting. Marcus pressed against the passenger window, waving. She locked up and crossed the street. "How was your day?" Nico asked as she slid into the driver's seat. "Perfect. Yours?" "Better now." They drove through Brooklyn as golden hour painted the buildings. Past the diner where she'd worked. Past their old apartment building. Past the school where Marcus had been silent and scared. "Can we drive by our old place?" Marcus asked from the back seat. "Sure, baby. Why?" "I want to see if it looks different." Their old building looked smaller than Tessa remembered. Sadder. The windows were dark. The stoop was cracked. "Do you miss it?" Nico asked quietly. "No," she said without hesitation. Do you think that's wrong? It was our home for 2 years. It was your shelter. There's a difference. He was right. The apartment had been survival. The brownstone was home. Can we go home now? Marcus asked. I want to start Charlotte's Web. Of course. Home was dinner around the kitchen table. Marcus chattering about school, while Nico listened with complete attention. Angelo joining them twice a week for family meals. Home was chess lessons in the library. Marcus's delighted squeals when he finally beat Nico, the way Nico pretended not to let him win. Home was tucking Marcus into bed with stories and songs, watching Nico kiss his forehead and whisper, "Sweet dreams, son." Home was sitting in the garden after Marcus slept, Nico's arm around her shoulders. The sound of water in the fountain, the safety of walls that would never be breached. Tessa, Nico said as they watched stars appear, I have something for you. It's not my birthday. It's better than a birthday. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Her breath caught. Nico? Let me say this first. He shifted to face her. 6 months ago, you were a stranger who helped an old man in the rain. Tonight, you're everything I didn't know I was missing. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. I know we haven't talked about marriage. I know it's soon. But I also know that I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making you happy. Tears blurred her vision. Nico, marry me, Tessa. Let me be your husband. Let Marcus be my son. Let us be the family we've become. She looked at this man who'd given her everything, safety, love, a future she'd never dared dream. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been made for her, like everything else in this new life. When? She asked, admiring the way the stone caught moonlight. Tomorrow, next year, whenever you want. Soon, she said firmly. I want to be your wife soon. He kissed her then, deep and sure and full of promise. The kiss of a man who'd found his home. Should we tell Marcus? She asked when they broke apart. Tell Marcus what? They turned to find him standing in the doorway. His hair was messy, his dinosaur pajamas were crooked. That we're getting married, Tessa said softly. Marcus's face lit up brighter than the garden lights. Really? You're going to be married? Like real parents? Like real parents, Nico confirmed. Marcus launched himself at them. All three of them tumbled onto the garden bench in a tangle of arms and laughter. Can I be in the wedding? Marcus asked. You'll be the most important person there, Tessa said. Besides us. Can I call you Mama after you're married? The question caught her off guard. Marcus had been calling Nico Papa for months, but he'd never asked about changing what he called her. You can call me whatever feels right, she said carefully. Mama feels right, if that's okay. It's more than okay. They sat in the garden until Marcus fell asleep between them. Nico carried him to bed while Tessa turned off the lights. In their bedroom, she stood at the window looking out at the peaceful street. 6 months ago, she'd been terrified of black cars and threatening phone calls. Tonight, she was planning a wedding. Any regrets? Nico asked, coming up behind her. About what? Giving up your independence, letting someone else make decisions about your life. She thought about it seriously. You don't make decisions about my life. You make them with me. There's a difference. Good answer. She turned in his arms. What about you? Any regrets about taking on a ready-made family? My only regret is waiting so long to find you. They made love slowly, carefully, like they had all the time in the world. Because they did. They had forever stretching ahead of them. Afterward, Tessa traced circles on Nico's chest. His breathing was deep and even, almost asleep. "Nico," she whispered. Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing something in us worth protecting." "I didn't protect you," he said quietly. "You saved me." Epilogue. The wedding was small, family only in the garden where Marcus fed fish every morning, where Nico had proposed under stars, where they'd built their love day by ordinary day. Marcus walked Tessa down the makeshift aisle. His suit was navy blue. His smile was brighter than sunshine. "Are you ready, Mama?" he whispered as they reached the rose arbor. "I'm ready." Nico waited for her in his own navy suit. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. Behind him stood Angelo, beaming like a proud grandfather. The ceremony was simple, vows they'd written themselves, rings blessed by tears of joy, a kiss that tasted like forever. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, "I present Mr. and Mrs. Moretti and their son Marcus." The last part wasn't traditional, but nothing about their family was traditional. Marcus threw flower petals that stuck in his hair. Angelo wept openly. Even Enzo smiled from his position by the garden gate. They danced to music that played from speakers hidden among the roses. Marcus stood on Nico's feet, giggling as they spun. "Are we really married now?" Marcus asked during the father-son dance. "We're really married." "Good. I like being a Moretti." Later, after Angelo went home and Marcus fell asleep on the couch, Tessa and Nico sat where it all began, in the garden where they'd learned to trust each other. "Any regrets now?" Nico asked, playing with her wedding ring. "Just one." His expression grew serious. "What?" "I wish your first wife could see this, could see how good you are with Marcus." Nico was quiet for a long moment. "I think she'd be happy. She always said I was meant to be someone's father." She was right. And Sophia would have loved Marcus. They're both book nerds. They're both lucky to have you as a father. I'm the lucky one. They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance among the roses. Tomorrow would bring normal worries. The cafe's morning rush, Marcus's homework, bills to pay and groceries to buy, but tonight was perfect. Tonight was theirs. "I love you," Tessa said simply. "I love you too." Marcus stirred on the couch. Even in sleep, he reached for them, always making sure his family was close. "Should we take him up to bed?" Tessa asked. "In a minute. I want to remember this." "What part?" "All of it. The way you look in moonlight, Marcus dreaming on our couch, the sound of home." Tessa leaned against her husband's shoulder. Her husband. The words still felt new and wonderful. "We made it," she said softly. "We made it." From helping a stranger in the rain to Sundunse, saying "I do" in a garden full of roses. From survival to love. From fear to forever. They looked at each other and smiled. They were finally home.